So here are a few tools that I have purchased. I've got the stamp positioner. There's a We Are Memory Keepers stamp positioner. I got that on clearance at Michael's for like $10. These tools, the bigger kind of tools, can get really expensive. And so I only purchase them if I can find them on clearance or on sale or a good deal. The Make Art station up there, it was a free gift with purchase at scrapbook.com. So here I am stamping my image. So I got this set recently from Pink Fresh Studio. They had a ultimate clearance sale on, and then I got this. So I got this set. It's called the Blushing Floral set, and it has a matching 6-piece stencil set that goes with it. If you get their emails, you can catch their sales, and they have some really decent sales. So I think this stamp set was like, the stamp was $4 and stencils were $6, so it was about $10 to $11 for this set, and like full price it's definitely more than that. So it was a steal, and the images, the floral images, are so beautiful. They're just elegant, and I love the style of their images. So when I catch a really good clearance deal, I try to grab it. I found this stencil set was super easy to use. As I said, it's got six stencils. It has 2 clusters of flowers and the leaves, and then you've got the main flower stencil, the detailed stencil. Here I'm showing you that I did a bunch of panels prior to showing you how I stamped. And now I'm gonna prep the tape to put on my panel so that it doesn't rip the paper or the cardstock when I take it off. So I found this stamp set and stencil set were super easy to use. It was super quick, and it just gave so much beauty and detail and kind of dimension to the florals. So I will say though, I don't know if it happens to be something to do with how I stamp the image prior, that maybe it's just slightly off. So the stencils in the corners have little notches to show you where to line your panel up. Out of all the sets that I've got so far, I have not been able to get that corner to match up. So I think it's just that I am stamping it slightly off. And so sometimes I have issues with how the openings are lining up, especially if there's more than a few flowers. Find like the top will line up, but the bottom will be slightly off. So I usually have to like stop, adjust it, and then continue, so that we don't have like, so here are the colors. I'm bringing my colors out. I'm going with yellow and peach with a kind of slightly teal green. Now I tried, being that it's a Pink Fresh Studio set, I try to stick with the Pink Fresh colors. I do tend to use their colors most because they're the only full line of ink pads that I have. Mostly in cube form. As I use them, I try to pay attention to the colors that I use the most, and if there's one that I'm using a lot, I try to pick it up in the full form, because eventually the ink cubes, especially when you're re-inking them, they don't hold the ink as well as when you first bought them, but their ink cubes do last pretty long. They have the hard felt pads on them, so I feel like they really hold the ink well. And But I have not re-inked any of these cubes that are here. I think gray. I use gray a lot, and I think I might have got an inker for gray. But as I said, I tend to just buy the bigger pad when I notice I'm using it a whole lot. So I have, here's the second stencil, the detailed one for the yellow flowers. I'm going in with a pigment ink ink pad here. Pigment ink has a very unique color palette with their stamps, with their ink pads, and so I don't use their stuff much, and they only have the option of the larger stamp pad. They tend to be more kind of a deeper, darker colors. They don't have many kind of light colors, so this one's kind of like a golden yellow color, I thought, and it went really well with the Pink Fresh Marigolds. I didn't want a bright yellow. I wanted to kind of bring it down a little bit and make it more neutral, because it's turmeric and pigment ink. Their ink pads are super soft, just like the Concord and Ninth ones. Now, Concord and Ninth, I do have a bone to pick about them. I use these colors so much, grapefruit and sorbet. I ended up having to buy the re-inker because the ink pads they lose color so fast. And even now, like, I think I've re-inked this one 3 times. And as I said, all of the Pink Fresh ones I have not re-inked except one gray. And this one I've re-inked like 3 or 4 times, and I'm still having issues getting the color to come off. And I should have just, I guess, switched to a foam blender. I feel like the lighter colors don't seem to like the brushes as much. They tend to like the foam blenders more, but I think in general, I know the color is a lighter color, but I was just having so much trouble just getting a little bit of pigment on there. So I kind of had to just be happy with what I was getting off of it. Grapefruit is definitely one of my favorite colors that I have, and I think I wanted to see how the ink pad reacted to the being re-inked before I decided to get the larger size, and it just, as I said, it does not hold the ink well. It doesn't last very long, so I just felt like it wasn't worth my money to get the full ink pad, because in general their ink pads don't seem to hold as well. But then maybe it's the way I'm storing, I don't know. I guess everyone has their own experiences with this, but as you can see, I'm really struggling to get a decent amount of pigment on my panel here. And I was really trying, with the brushes, you don't want to push super hard because it makes the bristles go out, right? You want that soft round tip, and I just felt like there was nothing on the tip. And so I think I was pushing harder than I normally would on those brushes to get something to transfer onto the paper. So, almost done. Just a couple more flowers here. It definitely is faster with the blender dome for this particular stencil, the one that's like the flower base. With the flower details, the brush works so much better because there are some really fine details that I was finding the dome was not getting in there very well. So now finally, okay, the sorbet, I feel like it definitely went by faster with the sorbet. I think I use that a little bit less than the grapefruit. And then I noticed that my stencil wasn't the right way. It was flipped over and upside down. But, you know, they've got the notches and the words and the stencil number on the top. So that helps knowing your orientation a little bit better. I just didn't look at that before I tried to put it down. So you can see it's definitely going by a lot easier. I'm having to ink up a lot less on this brush. And because they're in the same color palette and it's a darker color, I did not clean my brush off. I just left it. I feel like sometimes, especially when it's a detail, it helps it blend better when there's already a little bit of the original color there. Kind of blends in. So this is an example of a couple of the flowers weren't lining up when some of the flowers were. So as I went along, I had to kind of adjust the stencil so that the details were falling properly on certain flowers. And with these, the fine details, you do want to go in a couple different directions to really make sure the ink is getting in there. And maybe I should have done maybe tighter little circles. Kind of doing some pretty big circles there. I guess I got a little, wanted to get it done faster since the first part was taking so long. But the details it worked really well. Sometimes in the thin line details, you kind of have to go not in circles, but up and down to really make sure that the ink is getting in there well. So now we're going to move on to our flower, or the leaves. I believe I'm using aquamarine and Emerald City. So it's a little bit of a light teal and then a medium green. And I originally had not actually had those two colors together. I had a few greens in my basket, and I kind of just grabbed and I wasn't looking. And after I did it, I realized, oh, these are both not teals. These are one green and one teal. But they worked really well. Again, I'm having, and the aquamarine is not a light color, but I was just having, maybe they're just not great blending brushes. Maybe that's my problem. I got them off of Amazon a while ago. And I don't really use brushes that much. I prefer blending domes over brushes. So I'm really trying to get that color in there, but then I also don't want it super dark, but I wanted it saturated at a good level. So it was kind of trying to figure out how much to add without making it like really dark. And then with this one, there are a handful of really small details that I really wanted to make sure that I was getting into every crevice and making sure all of it. So there's a lot of stems in this one too, and you want to make sure that the stems are full because then it looks like the flowers aren't attached. So it just looks better when everything is filled out properly. The next stencil has even finer stem details, so I had to be really careful with that one too. So now I'm going to clean off my brush for some reason, or just make sure that there's not a whole lot of green, because I think I might have realized that it was a teal at that point. I'm not sure. So now we're getting into our finer details here. I really like this Make Art station with the magnets. I feel like it really helps keep things in place. The thing is, the mat itself is smaller, and so it does move around a lot more because I don't have it anchored to my table, or like at least some kind of tape to keep it from sliding, or a silicone mat under it. But that's something to think about, maybe getting in the future, having some kind of silicone mat, because while I was going through my video, I did notice that it was tilting a lot at some point and just almost goes sideways. So when you're crafting, you don't realize it, and then when you watch yourself craft, then you're like, oh, I need to fix this, I need to do that. So I think even if you're not going to make videos, recording yourself craft can help you kind of improve on your skills, or how you craft, because you don't really realize what you're doing, and because you're not watching yourself, and you get so engrossed in what you're doing too, that makes it difficult. I'm really making sure I get every inch of these details. And there we go. Now I'm going to do one more step here. There's been a lot of videos lately using Simon Hurley's newest paste, and it's a lunar paste. I don't have it, but I have solar paste. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to add a little solar paste. So I grabbed some makeup sponges and I just dabbed a corner in, like very, very light. And so I'm going in super light, just to have more like a sheen on the flowers. Then having like where it's super noticeable and sticking out and stuff. So usually when you use a paste, you want to use a palette knife and a scraper and get a good thickness in there. So this is just, I wanted it to not overpower the color that was already there. That's kind of what's nice about his new lunar ones, is they don't cover up the color that's underneath. They kind of illuminate that color. And see how that tape is coming off really nicely, not ripping my panel at all. Just touching it a couple times. So I had done another panel prior to this video, and I have two lunar pastes. I have a gold one, which was a free with purchase on scrapbook.com, and I have a red one, which I did purchase. So the gold one is, I might have said green, gold. My gold one is smaller since it was a free gift, but my red one is a little bit bigger. So here I'm going to show you the Simon Hurley lunar paste, or solar paste here. Oh, that one's lunar paste. The new one is solar, I guess. There's so many different names here. Sorry about that. So this is lunar paste. He does have a new paste that is like opaque-ish, and it's got a white sheen to it. And then when you move it in the light, it changes. You can see like a slight color. It's like a slight powder. So it's super baby blue, baby purple, baby pink, baby green. And I felt like it would have worked really nicely here. But using the makeup brush helped, or the makeup sponge really helped keep it light and not overpowering on the colors that I had already put on there. So here I'm going to show you the sheen to it. I cannot wait to turn these into